Hey everyone, we are happy to present another episode of My Real Estate Story, the podcast where we talk about real estate and business from real people with real stories. Whether you're just getting started or already investing, this show is all about learning from people who've been in the game and have something valuable to share. Today, we've got a great conversation lined up with two awesome guests, Joe and Dan. So let's jump right into my chat with them. Welcome to today's podcast. We have Joe and Dan, and we really appreciate your time, Joe and Dan. Thank you very much for attending.
Yeah, well, thank you, Lee. Thanks for having us here. Look forward to this.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, thanks, Lee. It's good to be talking to you.
Yes. Well, I'm excited, and I'll just ask straight away. I'll ask the question that I ask every guest. The first question I ask every guest, because our audience and me personally, I want to know, who is Joe and Dan outside of your professions or outside the professional world? Who are you guys?
Go for it, Joe.
Well, family man, I guess. Just a boring lifestyle. Dad, coach, soccer coach. Family. Get to travel a little bit here and there with them. We got back from New York and try to get out and play as much as possible as well. But I'm on the older side of these investors coming into the game. So that's my deal. So right now.
All right, and on my end, I'm the dad to two girls who are young teenagers. And outside of real estate, I'm pretty busy. I stay active. We're with my girls. We're a volleyball family, but I ski, I snowboard, I mountain bike, I play some golf. A lot of fitness endeavors. So stay pretty busy.
All right, that's great to hear. Can you guys share at least one interesting thing about you, about each of you? One like quirk, as we can say, right? Something interesting. Something not a lot of people don't know.
So, and this does tie into real estate, but I guess I would say I'm a recovering corporate guy. I had 20 plus years in the corporate environment, large scale program and project management. And that was just something I burned out on in terms of interest and environment. And so I transitioned into real estate late in my career. I've been full-time in real estate about 3 years. Prior to that, I was investing passively with Joe, who's got decades of experience. So I guess, what I would say is something interesting is someone who's well on their career path in a corporate space. You can successfully transition into real estate if you've got the right support. And Joe, he's also my cousin. He's family, and I love him like a brother. And I think an important part of my transition is being partnered with somebody that has a level of support and knowledge that could help me accelerate into doing this full time for a living.
How about you, Joe? Anything interesting?
Well, as far as I have the opposite path of Dan, complete opposite. Yes, I've had a job, but I've never really had a job. I've been an entrepreneur my entire adult life since about 22, 23 years old. Worked. I worked in a loan center, call center back in the early days, pre 98, 99, 2000, when it was, breaking into the business. But ever since then, I just been kind of a cowboy in a lot of sense, where I've went out and just tried stuff first and failed, and also had some great success in some areas. But as far as that, I don't know. I just been kind of always done my own thing.
I see. Where are you guys operating mainly?
I live in Dallas, Fort Worth, and Prosper. Dan's up north in the cold states, but we do work in Florida, Dallas, Fort Worth, Milwaukee. We bought a this was not like we concentrate in Tennessee, but I know you mentioned you're in Tennessee. We bought some land up there last year, and it was basically off of a foreclosure savior type of thing, where some guy was about to lose his land. So we're for our main markets, fix and flips and wholesale, we concentrate kind of. We narrow it in on a couple of those markets, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Milwaukee. But foreclosure rescue and stuff like that, and we've helped with partners and JV with people all over the place.
So since we're
Well, we
getting
built a pretty strong.
Go ahead.
I was saying we built a pretty strong referral base. So we'll target our home markets in Milwaukee, Dallas, and then also the Panhandle of Florida. But through that, we've built this referral network, particularly on the complex deals, things related to foreclosures and probate, and so we'll do deals in almost any state. Alabama was a great state in terms of the business we were doing last year. We've never marketed, we've never picked up the phone and called and tried to target that market. But
we just had somebody that had Alabama deals, and we just we were able to help the seller, and those turned out to. We learned the Alabama foreclosure laws pretty quickly, and it turned out to be a great area.
I get it. Okay, so since we're getting into a lot of the how your business is working, I want to a little bit of backtracking here. How did you guys start? I want to know how your business started. Where did it all start? Can you tell us the story?
I started wholesaling probably about 2015. I was in the I've been in the real estate space for forever, but there was a brief period of time where I jumped out. This is not always the easiest business, but once you get it down, I think it can be very rewarding. I jumped out of the business for a little bit in 2000. I can't remember really. I think it's 2013 to 15 maybe, and I'm not even gonna get in when I was trying to start up, but it was some type of medical bullshit that I'm sorry if I can do that or not out here.
Yeah, you can.
Some type of like selling stuff to doctors, but I was kind of looking for that next big thing, and that wasn't it. Anyways, my brother was wholesaling with a company out in California. That's where I lived at the time, and I jumped into that, and it was a much different game back then. I jumped into that, and they were working on market deals only, and they put me through like a 3-day training, which I don't even know if it was 3 days of training. It was 3 days in my own house, and I'd call them for questions every once in a while, and then I was sent out to go look at properties. But I've been in real estate, so I understood like comping and ARVs and how to price stuff out. So I kind of had an idea on that. So I caught on really quickly, and I started going after on-market deals, and I contracted about 5 in the first like 45 days, sold 4 of them, and I made a whopping like $7,000 off those 5 deals, but the company made like 100 and whatever, and I was like, wait a minute here, and then so I went out and just started trying to figure it out myself, and there's some interesting stories there as well. But after a few months, I got it, and then I built a team, and then all of a sudden I had a wholesale operation operating in California, and we were doing quite a few deals a month, like 8 to 10 consistently in the California region.
I see. And how did it transition to both of you working together and building Key to Home options?
Well, Dan's had a grudge against me since I was a kid. I mean, I stole his boogie board or his boogie board and lost it in Lake Erie at our grandmother's cottage. So, no, we've known this guy forever, and we talk all the time. So, Dan, I'll let you tell your story, how you got into this.
So I was in the corporate environment for a few decades, and Joe and I have always been very close. So I've seen, firsthand all the different paths that Joe has taken over his career as an entrepreneur. And I've seen the successes, I've seen failures, I've seen how he's adapted, and all the while achieving success, providing for his family, and outsider looking in, enjoying those pursuits. And as Joe kind of settled into fix and flipping and wholesaling and some of these creative deal structures, I saw that, the needle start to settle into that groove. And he was successful in that space and had opportunity for me to come in as a passive investor for some of those deals. So that's how I started participating. And I found the work to be much more interesting, much more fulfilling than what I was doing in the corporate space, and just made the decision that it was the time to make a transition. And I was going out on my own, but Joe and I were looking for opportunities to collaborate. And through that collaboration, it was actually Joe to say, "Hey, man, I think we're going to go further in this together than we are alone." And Key to Home Options, our company today, that was established by Joe. And then I was invited into Key to Home Options, and now it's we're both the proprietors of that business and working to grow it every day.
What are your main services? Obviously, when we link this, your website, everybody can see it, and I've done my research as well. For the people watching, what are the main services of Key to Home Options?
So buying and selling homes, but I think where we excel, where we differentiate ourselves from others, is the complexity of deals, the problems that we're able to solve. So we are purchasing homes to buy and hold. We're purchasing to fix and flip, and we're helping sellers to. We've been doing in the pre-foreclosure space, for example. We've helped a lot of sellers, prevent their home from going to foreclosure, prevent them from having to accept a lowball cash offer. And we've done this, we call it a hybrid novation, where we've come in, we've done the title work on these homes, and we understand the debt structure, and we've been able to give folks in foreclosure some money up front to get on their feet in another home. We've brought their home current by investing in the needed repairs, and then sold it on market. And we've made great returns on our investment, and we've improved their situation, helped them land on their feet. So in that sense, being able to navigate those complexities, and I think working with people, having empathy and compassion for their situation, and being able to help others out has really, I think, differentiated us from a lot, the long line of people who are out there just say, here's your cash offer and I'm wholesaling, and if I can't do it by the finish line, hey, you're at risk of losing your home.
See, so obviously a big part of it, well, I would assume that a big part of the decision making and pricing the home, the emotional side of it is involved. How do you guys navigate that? Do you, of course, I guess you really consider the emotional side of the homeowner, right? And does it increase, decrease? How does your business operate around this, the pricing when it comes to them saying, oh, this is, a home that's been in my family for years, and like
Everybody wants to keep their home in foreclosure, and most of the time it's just not a reality. And it's I never like just go in with a cash offer, hey, and just disrespect those feelings, right? And you gotta empathize with them and talk about their whole situation, and just get them to understand the situation, and see how you can make the best of a bad situation, and seeing what we could do to help. Just like the one we just closed out, that Alabama deal where his wife committed suicide in the property, and he went into a state of depression. And he didn't, he stopped paying the mortgage, and he never even cleaned up the brain matter in the room that it happened in. I mean, the guy was a mess. He was getting cash offers for this property that were $5,000 more than what he owed on it, but that wasn't going to help the situation. But we spent the time and figured out how we were going to help this human being move forward with life, not just buy their house and make money on it. So, with that one in particular, we got him a trailer, put him on land. He had a place for him and his dogs. We renovated the property, and we were still able to get him cash in his pocket at the end of it. We you know, so in other words, we didn't just go in and go with a cash offer or just looking for a quick buck for ourselves. Yes, we made money on the transaction, but we also solved his problem, and he was days away from losing the deal. Dan actually masterfully crafted that deal. I mean, you spent a couple months, 3 months on that, I would at least, right?
There was a lot of work put into that one, and it certainly had some challenges. We had to this was a homeowner who was distrustful of anybody. So we were oftentimes a therapist and a friend as much as we were real estate investors. But I think what we did there, it was probably the most fulfilling deal that we had in 2025. I think any other investor, that was likely going to be a cash for keys type situation. But we had the capital to invest. We had the empathy and compassion for trying to make the best out of that bad situation, and we had the know-how to get it done. We had a few similar deals last year that were in that vein, where I think some of the folks who are focused on just a quick wholesale wouldn't have been able to do. And maybe they'd get it across the finish line, but probably not as lucrative for them, and probably not as lucrative for the homeowner.
I see. That's quite a story, and the way I see it is like that's one of the most memorable deals you guys had, and yeah, uh, that is what was the most challenging part there? Uh, I there's a lot of questions popping up in my head. Was it the cleaning of the house? Was it dealing with the papers and all that? What was the most difficult part of that deal?
Well, that was in the state of Alabama, and that's not one of our core markets. We don't have a GC that we can call up to renovate that property. So we had to build that network, and we had to build it remotely. And when you're fix and flipping in a new market without those contacts, it can be very challenging. So
I don't
there's a
recommend
lot of
it if you don't have the experience. I mean, stay in your lane, stay in your market. We took a gamble on this one to help this guy. But I'm sorry, Dan. Go ahead and finish that thought. But I was just,
no, it's a
I
really
wouldn't
great
say,
point.
yeah.
Really great point. And if you don't have the experience fixing and flipping, um, being able to vet not just your contractors, but the people who are there to help you, the agents and such, having confidence in them, and that they know what to look for. We rely on some agents to do some light project management for what we're doing, or we're looking to agents for their contacts for contractors and such. But being able to establish those relationships remotely and vet them and have confidently select who to work with, that they're going to be able to help us to get the job done. I think that's important experience.
Speaking of experience, what experience or skill, what lesson or skill do you guys have that you always pull from your pocket and always use with difficult situations? What skill or lesson do you like attest to when you try to deal with difficult situations?
We're going to have different perspectives on this. Go ahead, Joe.
I think just communication. I mean, I come from a background where I've worked with a ton of foreclosures. I mean, that was one of my businesses back in the day. I mean, the forbidden word, loan modifications. But we did probably a couple thousand of those, and I've dealt with every type of scenario. I built a processing company for that. But I think to have a knowledge of the game and understanding how everything works, but communication, just talking to people and answering your phone too. Just stay in front of people and being good communicators, good listeners. That's about it for me.
From my perspective, I think how we get a lot of the deals is the organization, the analytics, the follow-up, the relationship building. That's on my end. We're informally split between acquisition, disposition, but that's a very very dotted line because we have a foot in each space. But I can often analyze, build relationships, understand the the seller, and look through the different types of deal structures that we have. And then, when I bring that information to Joe, I'm always surprised of, what he can draw from past deals that we've done. And, maybe it's not entirely new, but it's a unique take on something that we've done before. And being able to see the complexities and understand a path forward, and that's going to solve the seller's problems, that's going to make it a lucrative investment for us. I'm always amazed by that. And I think those types of things, and how we support one another, with strengths or weaknesses and such, I think is a big factor in our ability to do some great deals.
I see. So communication and trying to do something different every time. Did I get that right?
I think so.
Well, can you tell us about your business now, the business that you guys are running today? Because a big point of the podcast is not only just, real estate and technical stuff. We encourage our guests to talk about, motivation and, trying to encourage beginners, intermediate people in real estate. With the way you're running your business today, what's your main focus in real estate? And is it where you want it to be?
I think Dan and I are both on the same page of what we want. I think here, and I think a lot of mistakes people make getting into this business. They want to shoot for they get the shiny object syndrome, and they want to shoot for the RV parks or the multifamily right out of the gate, and that's great. And believe me, I want that stuff too. It just there's one problem you got to solve first, and that's your active income, right? Dan and I have our active income, so now we're kind of moving our focus this year more into the passive and more like flex space warehousing. We want to get into multifamily more. We want to look at all these active passive investments. But I think a lot of people coming into these big communities, they just want to focus on the passive income. Well, there's no money in that right away, So you need to you need active income to build up while you're focusing on passive. Now, if you're coming from the W-2 world, or you have a W-2 and you have a good, $200,000 a year active W-2, well then great. Start investing passively. You don't need to do that. But if you're full-time in real estate, you really need to get your active income down. I think that's what we've built with the foreclosure space and fix and flips. But now we're concentrating on where we would love to meet up with people is we want to be active buyers for their deals that they have for warehouse flex space for I'll say RV parks, even though that's not really what we're shooting after because we know why, but everybody in the world is going after that asset class right now. But not that that's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. It's just that when everybody goes here, I'm going to go here. I'm going to look at the other stuff.
Trying to look for another niche, and I think everybody agrees with that. Passive income in terms of real estate requires like a huge scale. Not maybe huge, but it really requires I think 21 doors at least. That's what I've heard. If you want to do passive, but since you guys are transitioning to
21
passive,
doors could be $2,000 a month. I mean, so it's just like it just depends.
Yeah, it depends. But yeah, I guess I've just heard of that. But yeah, it requires big scale, and I think that's something we all agree on. But now that you're transitioning to that, you have active. Is it like more for a retirement thing, or is it going to be alongside your active income? How do you see
for
that
me,
working?
it's just building wealth. I mean, I don't think you could see the guy that does 50, 100 deals a year as a wholesaler or real estate agent, but they're really just working a job. They're not building wealth.
I see. What's your perspective on this, Dan? Transitioning to the passive side.
I think asset accumulation is really important for us. Joe nailed it with, we've got the active income down. We know how to do that. In 2025, we held on to a few assets that were single family. We want to hold on to more of more of the assets that we're acquiring instead of just fix and flips. We're interested in wraps or any type of buy and hold structures that we can do. Certainly interested in the business of flex space, the multifamily, et cetera. Having been in the corporate space, I always had 401k and pension and those types of things that I contribute to. Now being an entrepreneur and real estate investor, I look at my retirement being based upon those assets that we're able to acquire.
I see. Well, with what your business is doing now, and like we talked about challenge, or you mentioned something about challenges and like building the systems and your process. Can you tell us your process in finding deals, getting your leads, and trying to close a deal?
We have some paid marketing that we turn on and off, but most of what we are, in terms of lead generation, acquiring deals, most of that is coming from our efforts and the relationships that we've invested in with agents, with wholesalers, with the bird dogs who are just trying to connect sellers with buyers, and then just folks in industry who know us, who have worked with us in the past. Having referrals from others. We get some amount of volume from. We do a small amount of social media. Joe and I do independently. That serves to increase our network. And I think having just been in the game long enough and staying active, telling people what you're doing when you're doing a deal, making that public, I think that is helpful as well.
I 100% agree, and that's the point of this podcast, to build connection. So yeah, all of that digital stuff, all of that digital is very important. But as your business is growing, or maybe I should ask, are you still looking to grow your business, or are you happy just the both of you and as partners? Or are you trying to get more people, more investors, or are you happy where your business is at?
Never.
I think, yeah, well put. Yeah, never. Yeah, even if we grow month over month, quarter over quarter, and year over year, you're never satisfied. We've gone down the path of building out a large acquisition team. We had an acquisition team of 10 at a point, and we let that. We never fired anybody, but we let that whittle down to zero through just attrition over time. What we found is that we were focused on the administrative efforts of running a business versus focusing on building relationships and getting deals. So we essentially scaled back to grow. Now, are we going to bring new people on down the line? Absolutely. But we envision we would do that in more of in a different fashion than we have today. Probably bringing on our administrative help and our marketing and perhaps lead managers and such.
As you've continued scaling, or you're still planning to scale, you handle more deals, more projects. What have been some of the biggest challenges or roadblocks you've had in the process side of things? What operations take up most of your time nowadays?
Dan, you're the operations guy. You're the systems. You're the team nerd. You get the. Yeah, I personally, I personally can't stand looking at spreadsheets or looking at data and figuring out like, hey, how we're going to do these systems. Dan excels at that kind of stuff, and I think that's a question for Dan myself.
If I look at our tech stack, it's not impressive. It's not overly complex. We do have a CRM, and we have some automations in the Google Drive space that add efficiency to our underwriting and such. When we're evaluating deals, it's not fully automated. The administrative parts are, but we're always, it's always something that we can look at, we can touch, we can understand the numbers on versus relying on automations to tell us where to look. And then, I think anybody can run you can run a real estate business, with a Google spreadsheet and a cell phone if you want to. We do some amount of, we do have a CRM, we run some automations, but as far as a tech stack and that kind of thing, it's really around just organizing, planning your day to day, and having reminders for, okay, I talked to this person and we agreed to talk 3 weeks later. Being able to prompt those things, so you don't have the kind of the thought burden figuring out what do I need to do every day.
I see. If you could fix something, it seems like there's still a lot of manual stuff, and I'd be remiss if we don't talk about AI, and you mentioned automation as well. Uh, if you could if you built your own automation, let's say, if you could instantly fix or improve one part of your business operations, what would it be? Like if you had like the power to with a snap of a finger, you don't have to do it. What part of that specifically?
Automating comps for properties in the Dallas Fort Worth MLS. So setting the filters for your square feet, being able to use AI to automate, like, okay, is this a renovated property, and is it is it a fixer, that type of thing. So being able to automate that would be helpful. Being presented the information to do the decision making and analysis versus having to go out and get that information.
Pre-analysis is what I want to call it, because I'm still not confident that I'm going to buy a house off of what AI's decision. But
Yeah.
I like we've been playing with that because we look at, I don't know, we get hundreds of properties a week to look at, and most of them are just like complete waste of our time to even open up the email. So that's where, to have like a system to eliminate all that, and just kind of cherry pick the top 10% that we want to look at, and then kind of give us some numbers, and then we can dive in from there. And I know there's some apps out there that say, you don't even need to know how to underwrite anymore. You can use AI, and good luck if you're using the AI to underwrite your deals and going through with it. Good luck.
That's true. Well, what separates a good looking deal on paper from a deal that actually closes for you guys?
Money. Do the numbers work? Yeah. I mean, comes down to it. Can I make money on this deal? I mean, we want to get. We look to buy at. Wholesalers and flippers or investors are going to have different numbers. They like for instance might tell me something's a 300 ARV. After we underwrite it, we're like, yeah, we're right. We're not getting more than 250 for this property. Their rehab costs are always low, and they're what we have to actually put into the property is always more. So if the numbers line up, and we see that if I have a wholesaler or bird dogger that sends me like accurate ARVs, those guys are a little nuggets, man. I love people that actually do their homework and send you the stuff up front, to where because then I can make a decision a lot quicker, and then when they send me something, I'm looking at it. There's certain people I don't even know. I just I don't even open their email whenever they send me stuff because I know it's crap. But yeah, so I just I kind of lost my train of thought on that, but
that's all good. I mean,
yeah.
I do understand
it certainly drives waste.
Oh, go ahead, Ned.
That drives waste in the business. Inflated ARVs and underestimated rehabs being sold to you as, look at this deal, and yeah, that drives a lot of time, a lot of thought burden of having to analyze those numbers, only to see that it's not as it's presented.
Hey, and I was a guilty wholesaler once too, where I saw these ARVs. I'm like, I think we could use this in a different city, a couple blocks over. But once I started realizing too that it doesn't help anybody, and also people start ignoring you when you don't get the game, when you're not putting forward something, the best analysis of a property, then the investors started ignoring me. So I was actually with my team when I was wholesaling. I was always like, hey, let's make. I mean, obviously, so many investors are going to have a different opinion than you. So we can't control that. But let's like put out try to put out realistic deals, realistic numbers on the ARV, realistic rehab numbers, and disclose what you know is wrong with the property. Don't sit there and try to hide. Oh yeah. I mean, we bought a condo and they said it's just a little minor roof leak. We went in there and there was not 5 gallon buckets, but 40 gallon buckets. Two of them just sitting in the main room. And we ended up buying the place after we negotiated it down. But I just kind of laughed at the description that we got for that property.
Move in ready.
Yeah.
Moving ready. Okay, that was a good one. Well, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Joe. It's communication. A big part of it is communication and trying to look for, I would believe that there are deals, right? You could look for a deal as an investor, as a realtor, or even a bird dogger, but it's mainly looking for the right product or the right house for the right buyer, right? If it's clear that they don't like.
Yeah, and I want to clear something up too on that front. I mean, I love bird doggers or wholesalers bringing me deals, and I'm not going to just be, hey, this deal sucks. I'm not, because I go through it with everyone. It's like, okay, this is why we won't buy this deal, and then we explain, and then we have the good ones adapt and the bad ones don't. So I want to be clear on that. It's like, hey, we got patience, and we'll like redirect you. But if you're not getting redirected, then that's when we don't want to see the deals anymore.
Yes, it goes with both for both ends, where it's finding the right deals, finding the right deals for the right people, knowing what they want, right? Especially when you're trying to, because that's one of the biggest difficulties. It's like a lot of wholesalers, like what you mentioned earlier, it's like it's clear the customer already said this is what I want, this is my lifestyle. I mean, they say, hey, this is the deal though, right? Have you had situations? Can you maybe share a quick story and you were kind of tempted to do what wholesalers do, I guess?
Well, I mean, when I was, I had this. When I first started wholesaling and I was trying to pull like 3 like kind comps that were rehabbed that made sense, I would stretch a little bit and I'd be like, okay, this one's in a different school district and the houses are all right next to each other. And I don't know, it's like my house, the neighborhood's a little more crunched up. And then I have this kind of nice neighborhood it's only 0.2 miles away, but the neighborhood's like 100% different. So yeah, I pull some of those comps, but then as I got more experience, I realized I wasn't fooling anybody, unless it was the new investor I was fooling. But then I don't want to do that either.
And those wholesalers, those large dispo houses that we do work with and buy properties from today, I think that you have they're leading with this inflated RV and this underestimated rehab. And if it hits our inbox, we're generally going to underwrite it. And if we're going to go ahead and underwrite something, we're always going to provide them those numbers. And we're very transparent with, our percentage, our ARV and our percentage of ARV that we're buying at and what our repair budget is for that house. So whether we're in the ballpark or not, we're going to provide that information. And you start to build trust, build a relationship. Those folks understand that you are a serious buyer and that there is a gap between, what they're leading with. I mean, the swinging for the fences and what is reasonable for a very informed investor. And it leads to better conversations. It leads to more productive conversations, about properties, and they're transparent with us when things are for us or they're not, or there's some room there to negotiate a great deal.
We also took more chances. We took more chances up until a couple years ago because there used to be a point where we're like, oh yeah, I don't agree with their ARV now, but it might be there in 3 or 4 months the way everything's going. And you could make mistakes back then and still win. You can't make mistakes flipping right now. You need your numbers need to be spot on.
Joe, you actually kind of read my next question because you mentioned you said something that was before and now it's different. What trends are
Hmm.
you seeing right now? Whatever
Well, the
niche.
houses sit. I mean, we used to list something. Let's say we list something for 250, it'd sell for 280. We list something for 250 now, we don't get anybody looking at it, and we're lucky to sell for 230. It's just the market's completely shifted, and we used to chase, like back 2 years ago, I would chase one comp. I'd look at the deal and go, "Oh, that comp just closed for 300,000. Yeah, I think we can get that." Well, now I'm like, that comp closed for 300,000. I'm looking, I still looked at the whole picture then, but I'm like, yeah, but there's all these actives, and then look, there's this house for 280 that looks just as good, and it's sitting there, and you have all this other stuff. So I need three comps. And then I'm still a little conservative right now because, and we're still a little unsure where this market's going. At the end of the day, you don't make money buying houses that you can't sell for what you thought you could. So we got to be careful on our exit prices.
What this is more of a question for Joe again, but Dan, you can hop in. What can you do, or what were you doing before? Because you've been in the real estate game, I guess, for a long time. What were the things that you could do before, and now people are overlooking or not doing anymore?
Well, what could I mean, overlooking? I don't know. I think it's the game has changed a lot. I mean, like when I was calling agents to, as a wholesaler trying to buy their properties back in 2016, agents didn't know what the heck you were doing. And they were always just, they'd be referring you more and more deals because you're moving their deals. Now, I mean, I've listed a couple properties on the market, and I get all these people. I get 40 calls a day from people I can tell are brand new in the business, yeah, and then they have this proof of funds from a big group that we know of, that they try to convince me that they're the buyer. So I think the market has shifted as far as, I think it was easier on market. I don't even really mess with on market anymore. But 10 years ago, the on market game, I mean, I pick out, you know, I'd roll out a bet at 10 and pick out a deal before the end of the day and have it under contract. Nowadays, that's like, if you're not busting ass in this on market game, you're going to be struggling. So, I mean, we focus more on off market now. But it's just, what else has changed about the business? I think, fix and flipping. I mean, I kind of already touched on this. Is just that you could make mistakes before and still come out ahead. Whereas, if you have more than a couple mistakes on a job, you lost your profit. If you're sitting for, if you underwrote it for 4 months and it sits for 10 months, you probably lost, lost money on that job. If you're 20% over budget, even with your 10% contingency, you lost money on that job. Whereas before it didn't, anybody can make money in this business, buying it, assuming you bought somewhat right. Because the exits were saving you. The market was going up so fast. Now it's like, I mean, I'll be honest. I'd say most of the time we still don't hit our ARV right now. The last year and a half, it's like we look at it and go, we conservatively underwrite a deal, and we still fall short of our ARV. So that used to never happen. I used to think I was really good because I always sold for at or above ARV. Well, times have shifted, and now it's like if you're not, careful on your underwriting and understand those exits, we can afford to be off by 5-10 grand, but if you're off by, I own a house. Dan and I own a house in San Antonio because we were 50 grand off. So we own that property. It was kind of, forced to own that property. Now, so I think that's the biggest difference between nowadays and what it once was. Plus, I mean, with all the classes and all the courses and all the gurus, there's a lot more people in this business now than there was. But it's also, I think, the rate of people coming and going are pretty high too. And you can make great money in this business. I mean, excellent money, life-changing money. But people come in and I don't know, maybe they get taught from the wrong people, or they get or they just come in and try it for a month and leave, or they try for a year with bad habits and bad advice. But there's you can make life changing money in real estate if it's done correctly.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, especially impacting the on-market efforts, is the amount of people that are coming into the game temporarily, kind of like a transient in nature. That they're looking for a get rich quick type of program that they've been sold on, and they're out there making calls, and they're not serious individuals. So when those folks who are serious investors, who are real buyers, are reaching out to agents and such, those agents are tainted by the experience that they've had with folks who are new, or just not serious investors, and that there's kind of a barrier to entry to be taken seriously out there. So that becomes a challenge for the business, certainly.
Speaking of barrier for entry, this is for you, Dan. What was your barrier for entry coming from corporate? What was the transition like? And what's the biggest, it's similar to my question earlier, what was the biggest lesson or system or like process that you were able to translate successfully into real estate coming in from corporate?
Yeah, I see a handful of questions in there, actually. I'll answer a few.
Sorry.
I mean,
Go ahead.
a big one is going from a salaried position is comfortable, and I've got a family, I've got obligations, mortgage, cars, etc. And being able to confidently transition into that, an entrepreneur type of lifestyle, where it's eat what you kill type of thing. So, hindsight being 2020, and then me being somebody who is analytical, I can look back on that experience and think about all the things that I might have done different. But I think the most important thing is making that decision with confidence, and just going and learning and adapting, pivoting when something's not working, pivoting to something new. There were a few other questions in there, but yeah, that was the big part. I think for me was, I'm on this, 20 years into a career that is pretty lucrative. I'm switching into something that's very new, and being able to make that work. As far as what I brought along from that environment, my experience is large scale project program management, large global teams, and always a process and a systems element. So very organized. I can I'm very planful in what I do. I have some level of systems expertise that can help me. If it's not something I can build, I know how to hire somebody to help me to build that. But and then also being in having assignments in the sales and marketing space for those programs and systems type of projects. There's a lot of that translates as well. So that experience that I gained, it's certainly not it's not wasted years. It's applicable to what I'm doing now. I certainly draw from it in terms of investing in my real estate business.
Thank you. That was great. Oh, we don't have much time, so I'm going to ask a question for each of you, and we haven't touched on the motivation side of it. For those who are new, intermediate, or even advanced in real estate, what would be your message, specifically to our audience, whether it be pivoting from the golden handcuffs of having a job, or just wanting to start? From each of you, what would be your message?
I think just finding somebody in the space who's doing it and seeing how you can bring value to them. And I think that is what a lot of people come in and it's like, what can you do for me? Well, you're not in the space and you can't do much for these people. I mean, when I say you can't do much for these people, you can figure out what they need, where you can bring value and learn from them. I think that's my biggest advice is just try to find somebody actually doing it and vet them out, because anybody on the internet can look like they're doing tons of business, and they can lead you down the wrong path on something that they feel is going to work, but it doesn't work. So I would, find an investor who is that is actually doing the work and actually closing deals, and see how you can bring value to them.
I would say, invest in yourself. There's books, there's YouTube videos, there's local meetups, there's podcasts.
Meetups,
So
huge.
So yeah, actively invest in yourself before before making that transition, and then finding a tribe, the people that you trust. I'm very lucky that I got to partner up with Joe. I mentioned we're family, right? Has there been tension in our business? Have we had to overcome challenges together? Absolutely, right? And what's the output of that? Is that I think we're stronger as partners for navigating some of these things where others maybe wouldn't be able to do that. You have a disagreement or you see things different. Maybe that's parting your ways if you don't have a level of trust and belief in one another.
I would also
So,
add to that not be so quick to jump into a partnership with somebody you just met inside of a group. It's like go through the dating process first and see if you guys line up and complement each other.
have proof of concept.
Yeah.
Close a few deals before you actually make that transition and jump all in.
Yes, knowing you have to know how you're going to work with the person first. Those are great, and I think that's a great way to end the podcast. Before we say goodbye to our audience, how do people contact you, Joe and Dan? How do people reach you?
Go for it, Joe.
I was just you can email me or call me. My number is actually 714-235-1860. Dan does a lot of our underwriting, but I'd be happy to talk with people and schedule an appointment if you're interested in learning how you can bring us deals. Also, my email, Joe Korte, just like I don't know if this is going to be displayed, joekorte@gmail.com.
Dan, do you have any socials, both of you? Or Dan,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So at the Dan Major on Instagram, or just Dan Major on Facebook, and then Dan at keytohomeoptions.com is my email address. So it's Dan at key and then the number 2 homeoptions.com. And yeah, pretty much any social, we're present out there. If someone needs support, we welcome you to reach out, and we're always up for collaborations.
All right. Thank you very much, Dan and Joe, for your time. We really appreciate it. And we can't wait to have this up on our channel. Thank you.
I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great speaking with you. Thank you.
All right, that wraps up this episode of My Real Estate Story. Huge thanks to our guests for sharing their journey and insights. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube so you don't miss the next story. We will also have our Instagram page updated soon, so be sure to watch out for that. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode of My Real Estate Story.